Everybody wants to become an authority. Everybody wants to become a thought leader. Even if they don't say they do, we all secretly do because it's kind of the best thing in marketing, right? If people know, like, and trust your expertise, well, it's just a lot easier to do marketing. And a couple of years ago, I went on a journey. I went on a hunt to find the best path to becoming said thought leader. I'm like, I'm going to figure out this process. Maybe I can help myself and maybe I can help other people. I actually went and read every single book there was on the topic, and I couldn't really still find a clear path. So in this episode, I actually want to share the exact plan that I developed for myself, have implemented a few times, and have helped other people implement in order to help you become that authority. And it seems like it would take a long time. It doesn't take as long as you would think. And most people actually don't take the time to take these few tiny steps that you could probably get done in 6 months and walk out the other side with more authority than you've had in the last 5 years. So welcome back to the AI Driven Marketer. This is the Own the Show segment where we're actually doing a whole podcast to book around Own the Show. I'm Dan Sanchez. I'm joined by my co-host, Ken Frere.
What's up, bro?
And I want to just dive right into it because this framework has been fire. It's so simple. It isn't necessarily easy, Ken, but I find that every time I do it, it's just kind of like, yep, this is the path. These are the drills. These are the things that I need to do in order to gain some influence on this particular topic. So in the last couple of episodes, we've talked about the importance of becoming an authority. In the last one, we talked about the importance of becoming a student and kind of taking the low road in order to actually pull down people's BS meters, their skepticism, pull it down, become an authority, teach them just what we're learning on our path of being a student. But there's a particular order in which you can actually be a student that's very practical. It's actually really, it's simple, not easy, it's simple. But when I explain it to people, they get a little lost on it because it seems like it can be like overwhelming, but it's actually much simpler and way more straightforward than I would ever. It's 6 a.m. But I promise it's way more straightforward than it first sounds. But first, let me give you the overview, Ken. And you've heard me say this before, that the best path to being a student, to building authority, is to do what I call the 30-30-30 plan, which is to find a niche topic and then read 30 books on that topic, interview 30 experts on that topic in a podcast, and then write 30 blog posts on that topic, answering the most frequently asked questions when it comes to that particular niche. So that's the plan. It seems like a lot. It's actually very doable in a 6-month period, maybe a year-long period, depends. And the numbers, the 30 part, that's just kind of like wishy-washy. Like there's some niches that only have like 12 books written on the topic. If the niche has more than 30 books, then it's not niche enough. That's kind of how I define how big a niche should be. Like if you try to do marketing, well, marketing has well over 30 books written on the topic. Go down. You might have to go down 2 more times for marketing in order to find a topic that really only has, 15 to 30 books written ever on that topic, or at least that are credible. I'm sure with AI, this gets harder because the book scene is going to blow up. And then do the 30 interviews. And then even I've loosened up on the blog posts because I kind of created this plan back when I was in the SEO blog posts,
Yeah.
And usually write SEO blog posts to answer frequently asked questions. I'd say you could also just record 30 unique episodes on a podcast these days. The whole point of the plan is to grow in your expertise. Remember, we're being a student, but it also paves the way for other things. Because if you do the 30-30-30 plan and you read all the books, you're essentially learning everything that's been said on the topic, on a niche topic. And it mirrors a lot like what students do as in a PhD program, right? They got to read all the information in order to find the spot that doesn't have the contributions yet. But you don't know what those blind spots are until you actually like take inventory of all the other published ideas people have had on the topic. You could do the same thing. It's like the foundation you have to do. it's important to read all the books and then actually talk to all the experts, because chances are the books are the summaries, the books are the main nuggets, but there's always nuanced questions or misunderstandings you have, which is why it's important to actually read the books and then talk to the experts, get a whole different level of expertise, learn the material farther Socratically. But this is where it starts to phase into you actually becoming an authority. Even if you already know all the information, even if you're already an authority, even if you've already read most of the books, going through and making sure you've read all the books always ensures that you can then start publishing information about what you're learning from new books, what you're doing with these experts. Also, interviewing the experts gives you a chance to kind of be associated with said people. People will start to be like, oh, he's hanging out with so and so. Oh, he's hanging out with her, with him. And you start to build that association. It's part of building authority. And then writing about it, of course, I don't know. There's something about writing, right? Specifically. I mean, I like podcasting, but writing about it in particular is very helpful because it really cements what you're actually thinking, what you're actually learning in the process of teaching it and communicating it. And that's why colleges have you write papers. But you don't have to write academic papers, those college papers that your
Bore you
professor
to
even
death.
hated reading.
Yeah.
Where you were like regurgitating stuff. No, you can actually write in the way that humans actually read. You're not going to be forced to stick to APA or whatever format you were sticking to. Just write like a human and communicate the idea to answer the question. And that's the 30-30 plan in a nutshell. I've used it multiple times. Like, again, I think I said this on the last episode. I figured it out on accident doing it for a particular topic, not thinking I would become an authority on it. But then people started coming to me with questions and started acting as if I had expertise on the topic, even though I'd sprinted through the 30-30 plan in like a 30-day period, more like a 6-week period, but still. And since then, I've done it multiple times on multiple topics, and it's worked pretty well every time. And now I'm here at the AI Driven Marketer, and I'm 2 years in to be really trying to master. That's my journey, trying to master AI. And it's worked well. Like, people invite me to come up on stage. I get invited to events and speak on podcasts, contribute to books. And some people might say that I've become an authority on it. I'll let other people say it though. It's, to me, I'm still on a journey of mastering, because I still have so much more to learn. So many more books are being written on the topic now than when I first started that I'm still reading and catching up with. So,
Yeah.
Ken, I've been talking for a while now. How does
Well,
that hit you?
you know, what I find super interesting is that true experts, I have found, have always been doing something like this. They don't get stagnant. They don't get stuck. They don't be like, oh, I've mastered this one part and then I'm done. It's like, no, how do I keep growing in this area? And like with AI, I love that you just said that, right? You're like, I'm constantly growing because the field is so new still. So you're like, okay, let me keep reading. Let me figure out what's going on out there. And I think this is why a lot of people even follow you on LinkedIn, because they see, oh, they can't keep up with all the new tech stacks, all the new tools, everything else that's going on. And it's fun to just have someone who's paved the path forward a little bit. And they're like, oh, you already did the research. A great example is like when Atlas came out, you texted me like literally the day after. You're like, download Atlas, go try it out. Check. I'm like, sweet. I didn't even have to think about, should I do it, should I not? You just said, go do it. I'm like, okay, right. Like, it was easy for me to do that. And I saw other people who chimed in when you posted it on LinkedIn. So that's the beauty of, one, being a student, and two, just constantly like figuring out, how do I learn? And I think that's ultimately what you're trying to say to everybody is like, be a learner, stay focused and stay diligent. You don't have to do it in a 6-week sprint like you did, right? But like, find a way to constantly be learning. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today throughout the whole session, is like, how do you actually master this process of the 30-30 plan?
I almost wonder, when some people first hear about it, they look at the book list and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
is way too many books." I will say, like, you challenge me on this if you think I'm wrong, but in my mind, I'm like, if learning a lot of information is just kind of like a no-go for you, then probably being a thought leader and being an authority probably isn't for you. There's many other ways to win. There's many other ways to succeed when it comes to standing out and being an authority. But if you actually want to lead people's thinking, you can't do that unless you're an aggressive learner. Like, I don't know a way around it. Would you Would you say there's exceptions to that?
No, I think the only exception is that like people could learn in different modalities, right? So if and by the 30 books, you're not saying, "Hey, I'm going to read all 30 books." You might be listening to all 30 books, or something like that, or you might watch 100 videos or on YouTube, deep content on it. Like that, that's fine as long as you're learning is the
That's
key
right.
thing. But there is something powerful about books.
Yes.
So I don't want people to miss that. There is something powerful that like if you're not reading, you're missing out on the ability to influence other people. And ultimately, think about it this way. Throughout all millennia, right, the thing that has stood the time, right, is books. As soon as the printing press came out, like people keep buying books. You would think in this digital age of blogs and everything else and video that books would not be selling. They still sell, right? Because there's something powerful about when you have a physical book and you're reading it, you're highlighting it, you're processing through that information. So I think that if you're not reading, it's going to really dilute your ability to grow as an authority. And if you don't like to read, I get it. Try to find another modality. But at the end of the day, be a learner. That is huge. And if you're not learning, you're actually not being an expert. You're just trying to ride the wave of something new and the hype of it all.
I highly recommend books. I think if the topic calls for YouTube videos because there are no books or because the topic is best learned through YouTube,
Yeah.
like let's say AI automation, that's your thing. There are hard like you're probably still gonna have to read all the AI books, but like YouTube is the path for that. There's
Yeah.
no way to do it outside of YouTube. That's where all the information is on that topic. As it begalls, it's still super new. So, but
Yeah.
YouTube's the place where it's at. But for the most part, I highly recommend using books. The reason is you can like it could be, there's blogs, there's so many modalities, but there's something different about a book because people have to take all those things they've done before and condense it down into the best package. That's what a book is. A book is a package of ideas on a particular topic. Some are good, some are bad, some are loose, some are very specific, some are long, some are short. But they're particularly well thought through little packages of information. They're usually highly edited and streamed down if they're gone through a publisher and they go through many rounds of being edited. But even the self-published ones, I find some of the most unknown books on niche topics end up having the best nuggets in them, which is why you have to read them all. Even the ones that are obscure, the ones that were self-published that probably suck, they're
Yeah.
only $5 or $10 a piece. Just buy it. Oh, Ken, this is the other thing. When I say 30 books, people are like, oh, I haven't read more than 30 books since college or high school. I'm like, look, reading 30 books on a very niche topic is very different than reading 30 random books
Yeah. That's true.
because if it's all on the exact same topic, they all have to repeat the same information. They have to because they don't know what the context of the reader is. So they have to repeat the same basic context for them to be able to sink in their new ideas, which is why an author told me once, he's like, most nonfiction business books are really only worth 2 chapters. One to hit the price point of that like 200 page marker, $15 ish. He's like, you got to pad it out a little bit. So most books aren't like end to end reads. They like really only have 2 chapters worth of unique,
Yeah.
good, vetted ideas. The rest is like context and then some filler and then some extras. So most books aren't really that much. Some books are. Some books you will have to read cover to cover on the topic because they're written by someone who's done exhaustive research, life's work kind of stuff. They're out there, but most of them, especially in the business world, they're fluffy. So you read it, and the first 3 you have to read probably straight through. But then after that, you're kind of skimming. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to read it word for word. You can just look at a page and know you already know that information. So I'm just like moving through pages. I'm like scanning. I'm hunting for the new information. And the more you read, the less of each book you have to read because again you're just scanning it, you're looking for the new contribution this author has made into it. Some again you're gonna have to like book 15, you're like, oh, this one's dense, I'm gonna have to read this whole one. Or book 16, you're like, man, there's only like 2 pages in here that are worth anything. So you read those 2 pages, you highlight them up, and then you move on. But reading 30 books on the same topic feels more like 7 or 8. That's provided there's 30. Most of these niche topics, like when I did account-based marketing, only had like 13 or 12 or something like that. And it felt more like reading 5 books, which
Yeah.
wasn't that bad.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. Like I have certain topics that for the last 15 years I've always been reading on, right? Like theology books, leadership books, business books that for the most part I could read really fast because it's like they're not saying a lot of new information. And that's what I encourage all of you guys, if you're listening to this, is be like, ooh, just pick a niche, right? And whatever that niche is, start to find as many books as possible, videos as possible, and just start going down the rabbit hole.
Like it just
So,
happened recently. You read Ryan Dice's book, right?
yeah.
On business operations.
Oh, yeah.
But by the time you get to his book, you're like, I've already read E Myth, I've already read Execution Premium, we'd already read Scaling Up, Traction. Like they're all the same kind of book.
Yeah.
So
Just
by the time
package
you
it
get to
for me.
his book, which is probably book 5 on the list, at least for me, you're like, okay, like, oh, he's approaching it this way. Everybody else kind of did it this way. And you're kind of like just looking for like, what's his angle on the topic of strategic planning, which is what the book's about.
Yeah. I've read probably like 10 or 15 books on strategic planning. And then
Yeah.
when I read that one, I read it in a day because I'm like, oh,
Yeah. It
cool.
just
The
doesn't
first two
take that long.
chapters are the golden nuggets. And then everything
Mhm.
else, I'm like, ugh, okay. Like
He's
it's not
borrowing
anything
from
new.
here. He refined this one a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it is once you've read so many books on one topic.
Yeah. Okay. So Dan, as we walk through this, people are like, they might catch the vision on the 30-30 plan. How do you actually execute it? What's the first step of it?
The first step is picking the topic. This is one of the harder steps. Like it's I don't know why, but we always want to like stay broad, but narrowing down the expertise just makes it so much easier to stand out in that expertise. So you have to actually make the hard choice. You have to pick a topic. It is possible for you to pick it, read about it, and then find out you don't want to do it. But generally, hopefully you're already starting as a professional. So you're already playing with these ideas. You're already dabbling. You're already experimenting. You're already working. You've already read some books on this topic. This shouldn't be your first foray into it. I found out on accident by diving into ABM, not having understood anything about account-based marketing was when I figured this idea out. And I wasn't really planning on being an authority on account-based marketing, nor did I become one because I left it after that. I did it, and then I started sensing that people were feeling like that, and then I dropped it. I went in a different direction because again, I didn't intend to do that. But you, as a professional, you should already be kind of this shouldn't be a new topic to you. You're kind of already using this topic, and now you're planning on becoming an authority in this topic. You probably already, even if you're already an expert on this topic, like you're already making unique contributions to this topic. You're probably not listening to this book if you're already an authority because you already got that game. You already have figured out this path on your own. But you might be an expert that wants to become an authority. I want to challenge you as an expert. Have you read every single book on your topic of expertise? Every single one, even the obscure ones. If you have, then great. Go back through them, re-index them, and start sharing about what you're. Start sharing your favorite books that you've learned things from on social media. Because again, you still want to be the student. You still want to go low and mark some kind of journey that you're on to master nuance of it, to accomplish something maybe that you haven't accomplished as an expert yet. But you want to go low in order to do that, like we talked about in the last episode. But the path forward is to begin, if you're starting as a professional and you want to start becoming an expert, is to actually define the scope of that expertise. Again, it needs to be a topic with less than 30 books.
Yeah.
30 is the maximum. It can be less. I think I'd say like the minimum is probably, unless it's an emerging technology field like I did with AI, like there needs to be at least 5 books on the topic. If there's not 5 books on the topic, go up a level. So that's kind of the range.
Yeah. Okay. So the first part, clarify the strategy or the niche, right? Some of the things that people might be thinking about right now is, hey, do I start with reading first? Do I interview? Do I do a mix? Like, is it all sequential order? What's the best process through this?
They're in order of read first, interview next, write last. But they overlap. Like you don't have to read all the books before you move into the interviews. You don't have to do all the interviews before you start writing the blog post or recording your solo podcast episodes where you're answering questions. So you can start reading multiple books and then start scheduling interviews with the authors. The authors are some of the people that you probably want to interview. If you start and you could start writing blog posts like halfway through your interview process. So these things they overlap, but generally, yeah, you read and then you interview and then you start answering questions via blog or podcast.
Yeah. I have found that if I have read the book and I tell the guy or gal, hey, I just read your
read
book.
your
I'd
book.
love to
Yep.
interview you. They are
Mhm.
so much more likely to come in because I'm also writing, reading the book and I have questions like, what did you
Yeah.
mean by this? Or how do you like process this? What's a practical step that wasn't in the book that now I could ask the person and they
Yep.
love it because it's like their hobby, the thing they love, and they could go more in depth with it.
Oh, it's the best thing ever. And even as somebody who's written a book, and I've been told this, they're like, man, nobody ever takes the time to read the book. And so
Yeah.
I can always go surface level. I have to actually explain the basic concepts of the book, but the authors love getting the questions that go deeper, or even better, if you can compare and contrast their ideas to another author's ideas and ask for it, they love going on like, oh yeah, let's talk about that, this is why I take this stance versus so and so, like that'll be some of the best interviews they've ever had, because you've actually taken the time to learn it, wrestle with it, and then actually go and ask them good questions. But that's where the Socratic method works so well, but so few people ever take the time. Like very few people ever read a cup. Like even people in the profession, it's amazing to me how many marketers I've met haven't read hardly any books on marketing outside
Yeah.
of college if they went to college for it. And then very few actually read a lot of books on it. Very few even do interviews. So it's like you get a smaller and smaller percentage, which is why the 30-30 plan actually works so well, because so few people even implement this. You don't even have to have a PhD in these fields in order to be an expert. So few people even get to the level of having read all the basic books on the topic and then interviewed, a dozen or two people on the topic. So it's like the barrier to being an authority is actually really low, lower than you would think. Because
Yeah.
how long, like if someone assigned you 30 books to read, Ken, and you're like, oh, I need to read these are my next 30 books, how long would that take you?
If they're all within the same category,
Yeah.
uh, well, I have kids now, so that slows me down a little bit. But I would say 3 months. If I'm
Pushing
clicking
through.
through it. If I didn't have kids, I could probably knock it out in 6 to 8 weeks.
For sure. For sure. It definitely slows things down in the best way possible.
Yeah.
If you're not a reader, again, this being an authority and a thought leader, you might want to reconsider it, because part of staying an authority is actually staying on top of the new ideas, of which there's always going to be new ideas coming out on your topic.
Yeah.
Always. So you have to continue learning. You become one of those people who had been, and they're just regurgitating the same ideas from long ago, you know?
Yeah. Let me
Oh,
share a quick
yeah.
story here. I remember Dan, you and I were working at a nonprofit together, at a university together, and you left, and they said, "Hey, Ken, I need you to lead the marketing team." And at this time, I have been overseeing the sales and operations of the university. So I was like, "Oh, I could kind of lead the marketing team because through osmosis, I've learned a lot through you." But I was like, I got really nervous because there's some really great people who knew marketing really well. And everybody knows they hate the leader who comes in and wants to change a bunch of stuff or do a bunch of stuff that doesn't actually know the expertise, right, of that world. So I remember I just asked you, I'm like, hey, what are the best books I need to read on this topic? And literally for 6 months, I just read every marketing book I could get my hands on. And then on my team at that point, I was like, hey, what other books should I learn? What stuff do I need to get my hands dirty on? I didn't want to become a marketer, but if I'm leading a marketing team, I better know how they think and how they process stuff. And the beauty was that because I knew sales, I knew how both of them come together,
Hmm.
right? So it was just like I remember one time a good friend of ours, Brooks, we were sitting, we were done with a meeting, and he comes to me and he said, "Hey Ken, I need to talk to you about something." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I probably said something stupid in that meeting about marketing," and he was gonna like correct me. He's like, "You did a fantastic job. I'm so impressed at how far you've grown in the last 6 months in your marketing capabilities." He's like, "You can lead a marketing team, and no one would bat an eye." And I was just like,
You've
whoa,
read
like
more
it was a
marketing
huge
books than most
compliment.
marketers.
So I say that to everybody who's listening to this to just encourage them, like, man, this is possible. Even if you wanted to go into a new field, right? Like you just start learning and implementing and going. And that's what the reading phase is all about. Like you just trying to pick up those golden nuggets. For you, Dan, I think a big question when I talk about implementing is should people publicly share their notes or summaries, or what does that look like? When should you wait to do that? to
You
start
should start
sharing?
right away. It starts from the very beginning. Even before you read your first book, just declare your journey on social media and say, man, I think I'm going to set out to really learn as much as I can about this topic. It doesn't have to be flashy. That's all I did with AI. I'm like, I've seen the writing on the wall. I'm going to start trying to master AI. Here's the plan. I'm going to start with these things. I'm reading this book first. And then you post it, people glance at it. Are they being influenced by it? No. But there's nothing about it that says, hey, I need to think critically and be skeptical about what they're saying. They're just kind of like, oh, look, Dan's on a learning journey. Good for him. And
Yeah.
then they see your post reviewing said book and they're like, oh, interesting. He read the book. They probably don't even remember. They won't remember even what you say, what you learned. It doesn't matter. They're taking notes now about, oh, this person's on a journey to learn the thing. And then when they see it over and over and over again for like 6 months, even if they're not even reading your post, but they're just noticing like, oh, he's posting this. Oh, now he's interviewing this person. Oh, now he's doing this. They don't even have to know who the people are. They take note. Like they know you're learning a lot
Yeah.
and they're seeing the frequency of it. They're seeing even sometimes the depth of it. Every once in a while, you catch their attention. They actually read what you're learning. They're like, oh, that's really insightful. But they don't even have to read it. They just have to be like, it's like a ping in their head to remind them that you're on a journey and that you're going broad and that you're going deep. So you want to start sharing that right away.
Yeah. Okay. So in the 30-30 plan, we're talking about clarifying the niche. Then you start with the reading phase, right? We've kind of talked about that. The next phase is the interview phase. And we talk a lot about podcasting here, but some people might be like, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready to podcast. Can people find out if podcasting is right for them?
If you want to learn if podcasting is right for you, we conveniently made an assessment just for you. If you go to aidrivenmarketer.com/pod, you can see if a podcast is right for you and your business, or just right for you and the style of just communication that you want to go after. So again, it's aidrivenmarketer.com/pod. Take the assessment and you can actually have an opportunity to book some time with Ken to see if it's right for you. We'll actually sit down and talk with you to see if a podcast would be a good tool in your arsenal in order to become an authority in your industry. If not, podcasting is not the only way. I've seen in fact, I even just made a contribution. Someone interviewed me recently, but it's not even a podcast. They just emailed me the questions. I just sent them back a video answering the questions. They're going to take the transcript, but they're writing an article. So they did the interview it was asynchronous. They sent me the questions. I sent them back the answer. And now as a writer, they're taking my answers with a few other people's to write an article. You could do that too. You can, of course, just have a Zoom or a Google Meets interview, talk to them, take their answers, not record it. You're probably still going to want to record it, which is why I'm like, if you're going to record it, you might as well publish it as a podcast. But some people just don't like being on camera. Get it. Interview them anyway. And it's a lot easier to get their answers if you meet with them in person versus asynchronously, like I just mentioned. But you could still do it that way and get their answers and then craft it up into an article if the written word is your jam. And for many, I know there's many marketers that they just like writing, they stick to writing, and they like the focus of only having that one thing. And for those people, love it. Hit it. If you're strong with that, just stay in that lane because it's going to go well for you having that focus. But for everybody else, if you're going to do the interview, might as well make a podcast out of it.
Yeah, you're doing all of the steps. You got like maybe one or two extra steps of just using a different platform to record and then distribute all that stuff. But I have found, interestingly enough, that if you tell me to do something asynchronous, and this is just me personally, right? If you're like, oh man, go answer these questions, I'm always going to put it off, right? Because there's other priorities that come up and different things that I have to do. But people actually like to be interviewed, especially if you tell them, hey, I have a podcast. Would you like to be a guest on it? People just get excited. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm a guest on a podcast, right? I remember the first time I brought in someone to be on my podcast, they were like, oh my gosh, this is the first time someone's ever invited me to be a podcast. They were like super nervous, but excited. And they had a wealth of knowledge, dude. But it brought something up in their own heart of like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
want to do more of this. How do I get in front of more people? And we just started chatting about it, right? And this was years ago. And now I see him on LinkedIn, and he's blown up way more than I have. And I'm like, this is like, I don't want to say it's just me, right? But he just put in the work, and it's fantastic to watch, you know. And I always joke around with him via comments. I'm like, remember, I was your first one, like this little bitty guy.
Oh man, I most people will say yes to being on a podcast. I hardly ever get no's, and if they are a no, it's because they're extremely busy. Maybe it's because they're a CMO of a pretty fast and growing company, and they get asked a lot to be on podcasts.
Yeah,
Those people are either, I don't know, they have to be pretty famous to say no, which I've been rejected before. It can happen, but most of the time, if you're going after a niche and you start with the authors that you're reading, chances are they're not that famous.
yeah,
Yeah. If you go after Gary Vee, like, yeah, you're not going to get him. It's really hard to get someone like him because he's got a huge social following and clout, and he's also really busy. So he's very strategic in the interviews that he does give. You have to kind of have a good size audience to get on it. And I've certainly come across people that will like, oh, like I only do episodes if you have to have 50 episodes before I'll even consider saying yes. I
yeah,
think Michael Hyatt's one of those people, right? He's like,
yeah,
I think 50 is his marker. James Carberry, his marker is 50. I remember I interviewed a pretty prominent CMO, and he wanted to see you at least have a few hundred downloads per episode for him to say yes. I was like, okay. So like for some people, there's a barrier, and some people are like way hard, really hard to reach, like the Gary V's of the world, or obviously celebrities are hard to reach.
yeah.
But for the most part, most people say yes unless they're a really crazy busy season.
Yeah.
So it's just not that hard.
And which another little hack that I found is if they work in a company, right? If they're solo, it's a little, this doesn't really apply, but if they work in a company and they have several staff members, like say you try to go after the CMO and that doesn't work out, you'd be like, hey, I know you're busy. Do you have anybody directly under you who can speak into this topic? And now I've made, the reason I do that is because now I've made a connection with that company. If I want to use them as a client in the future, or again, I'm just building up my network. So if I have a great conversation with, say, one of the CMO's directors, the director is going to go back and be like, hey, look what I just did with this podcast. Look at all this stuff. Like now you have a referral. So the CMO might be interested later on to do it. That's worked for me in a ton of different ways. We don't even have time to explain how
Yeah. Yeah.
often that's worked for me, but it's a great strategy. So Dan, we got, once we're in the interview phase, what have you found to be the most effective way to repurpose each of these interviews? Because I think a lot of people, when it comes to podcasting, they just get nervous. They're like, what's the tech stack? How do we do this? They get overwhelmed because of the I don't know, the unknown.
So many different pieces of conversation. There's like the tech stack. What questions should you ask? How do you frame it? So let's start with the tech stack. Generally, I always recommend everyone, if you're going to do a podcast, I recommend using Zencaster because it's the easiest solution, in my opinion. Because we're even here in Zencaster now, we can record, and then there's some editing features that make it really easy to edit with AI, or just transcript based editing, and then you just publish in the same platform. There's no recording and then downloading and then uploading and editing. It's all this craziness. But if you want to do it for free, even you can actually do it for free with Spotify. Has this creators.spotify.com. You can upload stuff there and then take just Zoom. You have to record the Zoom video and then just upload it there as a video or audio. And you can get started as simply using that. I just went on a podcast this week and he recorded via Google Meets and then uploaded it to Spotify. And that was the episode. And it was simple. It was nice and it worked. So it doesn't have to be fancy to start. I think you can even get away with just using a Google Meets record for free and then publish for free. To me, simplifying the process is the biggest game. So I like Zencaster. That's the tech stack. As far as what questions to ask, you should always ask the questions that you're the most curious to learn about. So you read the book. What are the questions that you still have from the book? If you're interviewing the author, or what are questions that still plague you about the topic in general? As you start to read, this is where you start to become, and we'll cover this in another chapter, but you start to find the gaps in the topic. But you can't know what the gaps are. You can't put unique contributions forward until you've actually read everything. So you'll start to discover gaps even as you're reading. You're like, I've had questions about this, and I'm gonna keep reading books and no one's answering it. No one's answering it. No one's answering it. So you jump on an interview and you start asking people, and then you start to find, they're answering it, but they're not giving me what I want. They're not, I still have this like problem that I'm wrestling with. You're like, that's where the gold is. That's the piece of ground no one's dug in yet. So you're starting to look for that, and you're starting to look for it in the interviews. But like the fallback that I always go into the interview, if you don't know what to ask, then take a topic they've talked about and then go through the what, why, how framework. What is it? What's the idea you put forward? Why is it important? Then how do you make it practical? How do you implement it? Is kind of like the fallback if I get stuck. That works for almost any interview. What's the idea? Why is it important? How do you do it? And then that usually gets me through.
Yeah. And then from there, if you do those types of interviews, the tech stack, then you start writing about it. Now, this is where I have found a lot of people get stuck because they're trying to do too much at the same time. So what would you recommend is the best way to start writing? We've kind of fleshed it out a little bit. If you're a writer, do this. But for someone who may not be a writer, what's the best step?
And this is for the last segment of the 30-30-30 process.
Yeah.
So the last step is you could start before you start contributing unique ideas, you really need to master the fundamentals. And there's no better way to master the fundamentals than to teach the fundamentals. But how do you know what the fundamentals are? What are the most basic questions people are asking about the topic? And there's two different ways that I recommend. I used to have just one, but now I actually have, because of AI, I have two different ways to find what this is. You want to find the most frequently asked questions on the topic. The first way I like recommending to do this is doing what we call Google alphabet soup. So you open up google.com and you put in whatever the phrase is for your topic into Google. For me, it's AI marketing, right? So I put in AI space marketing, and Google always has this thing called autocomplete. It's all the recommendations of where they think your search might go underneath it. This is a gold mine because it's recommending all the things people ask related to that keyword, related to that, the way people are phrasing your topic of expertise. So if I go in there now and put in, just go to Google, let's just actually open it up and see what it says. I put in AI marketing. Oops. Don't commit. You got to actually not search it. I get AI marketing summit, AI marketing tools, AI marketing certification, academy, agency, courses, jobs, world, companies. Some of these are very specific things, but some of them are general. AI marketing tools, AI marketing certification. Those are frequently asked questions related to AI marketing. Those would be blog posts or individual podcast episodes that I need to record in order to answer the question, what are the best AI marketing tools? What are the best AI marketing certifications? Again, it doesn't have to be a blog post these days. It could be a video, it could be a podcast episode, whatever it is in the medium you're doing it. The point is, you're creating and answering the question yourself. Taking all the things you've learned and answering the question better, hopefully better than anybody else has on the internet. Go and see how other people have answered the question. You try to shoot for being the best. Another way to get even more, if you want to go even farther with this, because again, if you do it, even Google only gives me like, I don't know, a dozen different options and some of them aren't good. You can get more out of Google by just saying AI marketing space, and then you put the letter A. And then, of course, it starts auto-completing with AI marketing, academy, agency, agent, app, automation. It's all A words. And then I see which ones are out of that. And then I take back A and I put B and I get all the B words, after AI marketing, I got AI marketing, bots, books, business, bootcamp, business ideas. I'm looking for all the different ones. And these are the most frequently asked questions, or at least the most frequently asked questions of people going to Google and asking the questions that show you what people are asking. But there's another way. That's the way I used to do it and still do it because people are going to Google. The other way to do it is with AI. You can actually go into ChatGPT and have it run a deep research report for you, which means it's going to go and scour the internet, think about it, and then go and verify, or not verify, but like double check everything before giving you back a report. And I like asking AI, and I'll put the prompt in the show notes. So there's a very specific prompt I run, but you can actually go and ask it like, hey, go and do research and scrape Reddit, get Quora, get social media sites, and go and ask them use ChatGPT's deep research mode in order to scrape all the most frequently asked questions of those sites and then rank stack them for you. So you see what the most frequently asked questions are that people are actually asking on social. So that way you get what people are asking on search, you get what people are asking on social sites like Reddit and Quora in order to compile a list of the most frequently asked questions. And then you just do your best to answer those. Don't use AI to answer them yourself. Answer them based on all the reading, answer them based on all the questions and interviews you've done, and then actually put together your best response on every single question. It will force you to think through them all and force you to actually articulate everything you've learned, giving you like an extra step of learning. But it also begins helping you on your journey of becoming an authority, because now you're publishing stuff. It's not like the ground shattering new contributions, but you're answering all the basics, sharing them on social, putting them out on blog posts or on podcast episodes. Again, it's each one is a building block for people learning, seeing that you actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So Dan, if everybody starts doing all this stuff, right? They might get excited about it. How do they know, or like, what's a great way to measure it so that they see this plan is actually working? Is it like they get more followers? Is it they get more opportunity to speak? What's a good measurement?
A good measured way to know if this is working, if people are starting to come to you for questions.
Hmm.
This could take a while too. This process of becoming an authority is not a short path, it's a long game. But it's a game that you ultimately control the time on. Like if you sprint through all the books, and I don't mean sprint through them as in like you're half doing it. I mean like you're doing it, you're just doing it rapidly. You're just putting way more time into it every day. You can knock out every single phase of the 30/30 plan in a much faster way. You could get it all done in 6 weeks. And I mean like all 30 interviews, all 30 books. Like you could. You wouldn't be doing much else, but you could. I've done it. Like it is possible to do. I didn't do much else during those 30 days, but I did get it done with kids. So when people start reaching out to you with questions is the beginning of knowing it's working. They might be DMs, it might be just your friends and family if you're sharing all this stuff on Facebook, which is a good place to share it too, more than just LinkedIn, to share it everywhere. The more people are reaching out to you, the better it is an indicator of you becoming an authority.
Yeah, and the beauty about that is like, I I'll give you a great example. When we started doing like helping people grow a podcast or start a podcast, I was like, ooh, do I have authority to speak in this topic, right? Because I normally go to you or James Carver. Like, there's so many people that I would go to, and then I started posting about it, and a bunch of people started texting me or DMing me, and they're like, "Hey, I want to know about podcasting. I've always wanted to start a podcast. How did you start? I see now that you were working with Michael Hyatt," and they've just seen me over the last 5 or 6 years progress in my ability to podcast. So I even was kind of caught off guard because people started reaching out to me about podcasting. And I was like, oh, well, just do this, just do that. And they're like, wait a minute, back up, back up. And I realized, I'm like, oh, I got to treat them like babies, right? Like, step one, use this tech stack. Step two, don't worry about, X, Y, and Z. And it's been fun to watch because it's just, I've been in the game long enough now that people are like, oh yeah, I trust what Ken is saying when it comes to podcasting. So that's the measurement that I've used as well, is like, are people asking me about it? And it's super helpful.
The next level is people start reaching out to you for interviews.
Yeah.
And then you can just kind of measure it by the authority of the people asking you for essentially earned media. You measure your authority by the amount of free earned media or publications that are coming after you. You start to get asked to speak on stage, and it's like no name events first, and then it's names, industry events, and then it's big names, and then the bigger the podcast, the event, the whatever it is, the publishers, whatever, like the more authority they have and they're inviting you, that's kind of how you measure, in my opinion, that's how you measure authority. When the earned media world is starting to come after you, you're not pitching them, they're pitching you on why you should be part of their thing. That's the best measure of all time. That's because you're creating demand so much so that they feel like if they get you on their thing, that's going to help them and their audience. That's how you know you have authority. It's when
Mm.
other people start asking you stuff.
That's a good way to wrap us up, man. In our next episode, what are we talking about, Dan?
In the next episode, we're going to talk more about learning in the light. This process of like being a student, like how does it actually look in the day to day as you're posting about it and sharing about it? We're going to get into the nitty gritty, a little bit more of social, because I find that a lot of people have questions about how to actually do more of that practically. So we're going to talk about learning in the light, what it means to be a student as you're going through the 30/30 plan, what it looks to start sharing this online with others.